65 horsepower trap that might pop wide open, Rats.
All right, so it started in record. Welcome in, everybody, to the TPT podcast. Big time guest here, my man, Adam Walton. He is the biggest Cincinnati fan I know, and he's going to bring his great analysis to this upcoming matchup between the Buffalo Bills and the Bengals, and somewhat what happened last week and the future of this team. Adam, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. How you been?
Doing good, man. Getting ready to talk some Bills and Bengals. This has maybe it could be the biggest playoff game this playoffs between these two teams. You know, a lot that surrounded the last time they played old Damar Hamlin. And, you know, it looked like that game was starting to get going before, the stoppage. So first thing I'm going to ask you is, we know you're a big Cincinnati fan. How did you become such a big Cincinnati fan? Who are some of your favorite players all time on the Bengals?
Well, I grew up in southwestern Ohio, so it was just around the area. I like the team. Growing up, I watched, obviously Carson Palmer, Manziardo, Josinko,
Oh, yeah.
Rudy Johnson, all those, those guys. It was a promising team, but, never came to fruition, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, in a tough division in the early 2000s, you had the Steelers, you have the Ravens. I can remember back in 2003, the Chiefs went into Cincinnati and they were 9-0, and Chad Johnson guaranteed a win, and they ended up beating the 2003 Chiefs with Priest Holmes and all those guys. So that was an absolute banger. So it's been a back and forth Chiefs and Cincinnati Bengal, even going back to 2003. But, we're going to put a pause on the Chiefs and Bengals until later in the show. But first, we're going to talk about the Bills. If it's not Chiefs and Bengals, it's going to be Bengals and Bills. That's going to be the narrative in the AFC. What are some of your thoughts going into this game, and some of the things that happened during the Ravens game that can't come over to this Bills game? Some things that can come over to the Bills game.
Well, I'm just glad we finally get the Bengals-Bills matchup, because that Monday night game I was so looking forward to, all that hype going up to it, and then just the worst happened, and we didn't get it. That was about to be the game of the week, honestly. So I'm just glad we finally get this matchup. I was hoping for it. That game against the Ravens, it was just tough AFC North division football. So the Ravens have a top 5 defense probably. Roquan Smith is just a menace. Marlon Humphrey, Marcus Peters, they got good coverage.
Yeah, even Justin Houston, former Chief.
Yeah, they did good getting Jamar Chase the ball early, but then, Ravens made their adjustments and stopped them in the second half. It was just really, really tough defense. And then, our defense just couldn't cover. Eli Apple got absolutely burnt on that long touchdown by that double move. It was just that we can't have that. The Bills have Stephon Diggs. Who's their other guy? Gabe Davis.
Yeah, Gabe Davis.
You absolutely cannot have that, because their wide receivers are so much better than the Ravens. And you still got Dawson Knox, and then obviously Josh Allen with his legs. So, gotta have much better coverage against the Bills this week.
Yeah, some things on the defensive side of the ball for the Bengals that are there. But what are some of the good things you thought that came out of the Ravens game? What are some of the good things you think that they can exploit against the Buffalo Bills? We know they have a tough defense, but it's also Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and those guys. So that they can do some pretty good things versus that Bills defense.
Yeah, the Bills defense, as you saw, they can kind of give up some big plays, and obviously Josh Allen with the turnovers. The Bengals are good at getting turnovers. We got playmakers like Jermaine Pratt. He's been one of the biggest playmakers this year. Him and Logan Wilson are honestly 2 of the better linebackers in my eyes. They got playmakers, on the defensive side of the ball, and then obviously it's hard to cover Jamar Chase, Sam T. Higgins, and then Tyler Boyd in the slot. So, that trio is, we've talked about it all year. They're scary. So
Yeah, good as it gets with the three-headed monster. And of course, you got my guy Joe Mixon, big OU guy, so I love me some Joe Mixon. And then of course you got the other OU running back, P Ryan as well.
Yep.
So you can always pound the rock with those guys. What does it mean when you hear Bills and Bengals? I know they're obviously going to be in Buffalo, but do you think this is the new Peyton Manning, Tom Brady type matchup, or is that Josh Allen and Mahomes, or is that Joe Burrow and Mahomes? What are some of your thoughts when you got these two big time quarterbacks going into this game?
Yeah, I mean, we want to make comparisons because me growing up as a kid, I was watching Manning and Brady go at it like
Oh,
seems
yeah.
like every year. So you kind of want to make those comparisons, but they're it's a new generation of football and new talent. So it's just this is the next generation of great quarterback matchups that we're going to get with Burrow and Mahomes and Josh Allen and even Trevor Lawrence and Justin Herbert.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so that's what I wanted to talk about a little bit more too, is how much of an impact Joe Burrow has made on the Bengals. Again, you've been a Bengals fan for a long time. You've seen Carson Palmer. You've seen Andy Dalton. You've seen some of the other backups that have had to come in there and play. But what does Joe Burrow mean to this team? Last year, it was kind of like how the Jags are now. Not a lot of people saw the Bengals making this deep of a playoff run. What are some of the things they have to do to kind of keep Joe Burrow protected? And just talk a little bit about what Joe Burrow means to this team as well.
Yeah, I mean, he and Zach Taylor both completely just changed the culture. Obviously, Zach Taylor came to the team, while we still had Andy Dalton, and I think Ryan Finley was the backup. They benched Dalton for Finley like halfway through the season because it was just looking terrible. So Zach Taylor kind of came into a bad situation, and then just drafting Joe Burrow and just the history he has of winning in high school and college. Obviously, won the national championship and a Heisman winner. So just bringing that culture and that leadership. I mean, he's a natural born leader. It's one of those things you can't teach, and you only see from certain guys. So he just changed the culture, and just radiates around the team, and everyone else around the team and the team buys into it. And they just radiate that kind of leadership and that winning culture. Never overlooking your opponents or playing down to their level or anything. So, and then And what else did you ask me?
And I said, what are some of the things that the Bengals could do to protect Joe Burrow this weekend? I know me and you talked a little bit on TikTok Live earlier today about some of the guys out. Just give us a little update on what you think the offensive line can do, some of the things they can do to make it a little easier on Joe Burrow.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. I don't think Kappa is going to play, and I don't think Jonah Williams is going to play either. Jonah Williams suffered the same injury earlier in the year, and I think he was able to play the next week, but I doubt he'd be out there again. So we saw Max Sharping start in place of Alex Kappa. So, he came over from the Texans. We claimed him on waivers before the season started, and he's been the backup. So, I think he played okay. And then in place of Jonah Williams, I think they're going to put Jackson Carman, who played left tackle at Clemson. So maybe that's a more natural position for him. I didn't really like him too much at guard. Obviously, Cordell Volson won the left guard starting position. So, that interior of the offensive line was the strongest. Ted Karras, Alex Kappa were the two best. And then Volson had, he showed flashes. He had his moments, but Jonah Williams allowed, the most sacks in the NFL, I think, among left tackles. So, it's can't really be much of a downgrade. And I like Jonah Williams, and I've wanted to, I've tried to stay optimistic about him, but this year with the rest of the offensive line, how they're looking a lot better, Jonah Williams doesn't really seem to have made much progress.
Yeah, and also, something that I think the Bengals could do to help Burrow out is running the ball too. Because again, we just talked about it. You got the two good running backs. So if they can get on the ground early, and we saw the Bills, they can give up some yards on the ground as well. We know that they have a good defensive line and some good linebackers, but seems like at times that they can be in these deep coverages and these deep zones that teams can run against them. So I'll be curious to see how Joe Mixon and Pirine do. We're going to get more into the AFC West and NFC West, or excuse me, the NFC here in a minute. We're going to get some of his predictions on the rest of the playoffs, guys, coming up right after this. Everybody to the TPT podcast. I'm back with my man, Adam, Bengals super fan. He's going to get a little bit more into the AFC playoffs and the NFC playoffs. We talked about the Bengals, some of the things they can do to beat the Bills, some of the things they can't do that will make them lose to the Bills. But Adam's pretty confident going into this Bills game. So let's talk a little bit about the NFC side. Obviously, if the Bengals keep winning, they're going to have to be right back in the Super Bowl. What is some of your thoughts about the 4 teams remaining in the NFC?
The 49ers defense is just scary. Best defense in the league. I mean, that's all there is to say about it. And Kyle Shanahan is hell of a coach. I mean, you can throw obviously any quarterback in there and he's going to play well. And, no discredit to Brock Purdy because kid's been playing, really well. So that's a good matchup. I think they're going to end up beating Dallas. I really do. I had them in Philadelphia for my NFC Championship game, and I still think Philadelphia will beat the Giants. And it's crazy. We got 3 NFC East teams left.
Crazy, and that's what I was going to get to. Is you have a team like the Eagles. I know you said that you think the Eagles will get it done versus the Giants. The Giants, we had some guys on the podcast earlier talking a little bit about the Giants. What are some of your thoughts about how the Giants were able to turn this season around? They went from one of the worst teams in the league. A lot of people didn't have faith in Daniel Jones. I'm going to be honest. I didn't think Daniel Jones was capable of playing like this. And again, guys like us, we may be able to go out and name some of the Giants wide receivers. The average NFL fan, if they're not a Giants fan, they're not going to know a lot of these Giants receivers. He's getting it done with not a super uber talented wide receiver squad. So talk a little bit about the NFC East and the 3 teams remaining.
Yeah, and I've heard some and seen some coverage on the Giants and just how it's a little reminiscent of that old Giants team where they went in as the wild card and ran to the Super Bowl and won it. I think that's the year that they spoiled the Patriots' perfect season. I think that's the same year. But and I mean it just goes to show what a good coach can do. Is Brian Daboll came in there and turned that place around, really kind of similar to how Doug Peterson came into Jacksonville and turned him around because Urban Meyer was not the guy for Trevor Lawrence and he was about to ruin his career. So I'm glad they got rid of him, brought in Doug Peterson. They look good, and then Brian Daboll, he's just a fantastic coach. If Daniel Jones doesn't have it and is having an off day or something, they got Saquon Barkley back there that they can hand it off to and he can have a big game. So, and then that defense is really good too. Thibodeau, one of the top 5 picks in the draft last year, playing at a really high level already. So, their defense is playing really well and their quarterback is the game manager and he can get it done.
Yeah, he gets it done with his legs. He's been getting it done recently with Isaiah Hodges, I think it is. If I butcher his name, I know they picked him up off the Bills practice squad. He's been an absolute stud. And then you have the Dallas Cowboys, who you probably saw that game last night. My goodness, Tom Brady, if he goes out and retires, that is just a brutal way after all those successful seasons to go out. So talk a little bit about the Cowboys. They're going to be going up against the 49ers. And you just talked about the 49ers. Sounds like you got huge confidence in the Niners. That's a old school 90s matchup where you have the San Francisco 49ers versus the Cowboys. That was a huge rivalry back in the day. That was almost like the Bengals Chiefs back in the day. Them going at it. So talk a little bit about that matchup and the 49ers going up against the Cowboys.
Yeah, I honestly had Tom Brady and the Buccaneers finding a way to win against Dallas. Tom Brady was undefeated against Dallas in his career, and I just figured it's Tom Brady in the playoffs. He'll find a way to get it done, but man, Dallas steamrolled him. So they get to go to San Francisco, play the 49ers. And, I was just watching, something, I forget who it was. They were talking about, the advantage that the 49ers have. They played on Saturday. They were the first game on Saturday. They played at home. Obviously they have another home game again. Dallas was played in the last game of wild card weekend, and they had to fly home to Dallas, and then they're going to have to fly back, out to San Francisco. So they have a lot of traveling. So that it's a huge,
a lot of traveling and basically
huge edge to San Francisco.
Yeah, a lot of traveling in a 5-day stand. They got to go from Texas all the way over to San Francisco. That's a good point right there. A lot of traveling for the Cowboys. And, even though it was a blowout in Tampa Bay, you're going from Florida to Texas to California. That's a lot of miles on it. And then the third team we haven't got to yet, they've been a pretty juggernaut this year, except for the last 3-4 weeks of the season. They've been a little bit banged up. Maybe that limits Jalen Hurts, but it's the Eagles. Talk a little bit about your thoughts on the Philadelphia Eagles going into their matchup against the Giants. I know we talked about the Giants a little bit before that.
Yeah, another divisional matchup. So, obviously anything can happen. Especially that division has been super competitive this year. I can't, I'm not going to guarantee that the Eagles are going to win because, anything can happen. The Giants could make a run. But I think in the last meeting, I don't think the Eagles had Jalen Hurts when the Giants beat them. So, obviously Jalen Hurts going to be back, got plenty of rest. Had one of the better seasons of any quarterback in the NFL this year. And, he's probably going to keep rolling in the playoffs. I mean, he's got some really good receivers, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. So, really good weapons. And then, their defense is really good too with their coverage and their front seven. So it's going to be a tough matchup.
Anything can happen when you play a divisional opponent. We just saw that with the Ravens game. Anything can happen. It could be a close game. Third time they're playing a team. It's hard to beat a team 3 times. So look out, Eagles. Anything could happen. And then now let's move over to the AFC side, our side of the division. You got the Chiefs. You got the Jags. And then you have, obviously, the Bengals and Bills. So talk a little bit about the Kansas City Chiefs versus those underdog Jacksonville Jaguars.
That's going to be a good game. Jaguars can be dangerous. One of the, their record may not show it, but they've been on a hot streak at the end of the season, and Trevor Lawrence is playing really well. Travis Etienne is a hell of a running back. He's finally healthy and running really well. And then their defense, they got Trayvon Walker, first overall pick. He can get after it. Maybe not as big as some of the other rookies like Aiden Hutchinson, but their defense is still really, really good. So
yeah, I mean the Jags going in that Chargers game, we all saw that. That was absolutely incredible comeback. And like you said earlier, you nailed it on the head, Adam. You were talking about what difference a coaches make with Daniel Jones, and what a difference a coach makes with Doug Peterson. They were a team that was just bad. They were a bad team. Last season, they won 2 games. Urban Meyer just wasn't a good fit for this Jags team. Doug Peterson comes in. They got hot, like you just said. And you know a lot about that because the Bengals last year. Yep. You know as much as I do. When a team is hot and healthy, you can go a long way because everyone's beat up at this time of year. But if you're healthy and you're on a roll, it is very, very hard to stop a team. Of course, they're going to be going up against Kelsey, Mahomes, and all those guys. And then lastly, before we get your Super Bowl pick, what is going to be your pick between the Buffalo Bills and the Bengals? What is some of your final thoughts? What's going to be the storyline coming out of this game?
Well, I honestly think the Bengals are going to beat the Bills. I do. It's honestly a toss-up, though. You can't. I can't say for sure.
Right.
A good argument either way for both teams. So it's honestly a toss-up. I'm staying faithful though, picking my Bengals to win, and I got us playing the Chiefs in a AFC Championship rematch in Arrowhead. So we'll get another great game between Burrow and Mahomes, and I know Burrow is undefeated against Mahomes, but that guy's too good. The Chiefs are too good of a team. They're going to find a win eventually. Just hope it's not this year. But my Super Bowl pick, before the playoffs started and everything, I had the Bengals and the 49ers, and obviously I got the Bengals winning. So I think this is Joe Burrow's year. Went to it last year, his first full year in the league, and this year he's looking better than last year. So,
so he's got the 49ers versus Bengals offense versus defense could be absolute fireworks.
Yep.
Chiefs, Bengals in the AFC Championship again. You're going to get Joe Burrow versus Mahomes. Can't go wrong with that either. That could be a matchup. And you're right about the Bengals-Bills game. It could be a toss-up. Two teams that kind of struggled in the wild card game, both going to be going at it. It's going to be high emotions. We could see DeMar Hamlin out on the field in Buffalo. It could be an absolute great one. Nothing can go wrong when you got Joe Burrow and Josh Allen. Adam, thank you so much for joining the TPT podcast. Appreciate you coming on. Before we get out of here, tell us where people can find you. We know you make sports content. Where can some of the people find you?
Yeah, I only do TikTok. Right now I don't use Twitter or Instagram or anything really much, but find me Cincy Fan in ATL. So,
all right, guys, I'll have it up on the screen so you guys can go follow him on TikTok. He's always on my TikTok lives, chatting it up, talking about NFL, other sports on there. Guys, make sure you guys go check out Adam. Adam, thank you again for being on the show.
Yep.
We'll catch you guys later on the TPT
Thanks for watching.
podcast.
Make sure you guys hit that notification bell, follow us on all social media, and check out our videos each week.